Well, it's bad to say the best, but in my opinion, I think Kung Fu is pretty good.
Nearly 5 decades have passed since Bruce Lee passed away. But during that time, his wife Linda has always kept silent about the rumors and mysteries surrounding her husband's death. However, after more than 50 years, Linda has decided to share some previously undisclosed information about Bruce Lee's passing, which has surprised many people. What are these revelations? Are the previous speculations true? Let's find out. To shed light on these, let's first learn about his death and the predicted cause of his death. On July 20th, 1973, the world was shocked by the sad news that the legendary Bruce Lee had passed away at the age of 32. Millions of people could not believe that an icon of health and strength had passed away so suddenly. According to his wife Linda, Bruce Lee's death was not as simple as everyone thought. His health had been problematic for a long time, starting on May 10th, when he suddenly collapsed on the set of Enter the Dragon in Hong Kong. After the fall, Bruce Lee began to suffer from seizures and severe headaches. He was immediately taken to Hong Kong Baptist Hospital, where doctors diagnosed him with cerebral edema. Despite his serious condition, they saved his life by reducing the swelling in his brain with mannitol. The worry weighed heavily not only on his family, but also on his fans, who had always considered him a symbol of health. Despite the difficult time, Bruce Lee returned to the set after a few weeks of recovery without thinking anything serious had happened. However, something very scary was waiting for him. On the fateful day of July 20th, Bruce Lee was in Hong Kong for dinner with actor George Lazenby, with plans to work together in the future. Earlier, at 2 p.m., he had met producer Raymond Chow at his home to discuss the Game of Death film project. The two worked together until 4 p.m., before going to the home of actress Betty Ting Pei to review the script for the film. After Raymond left to attend a dinner meeting, Bruce Lee's tragic story began to enter its final stage. At that time, Bruce Lee decided to rest a bit before going to his dinner. However, he never woke up. When Betty Ting Pei discovered that he was still sleeping, she tried to wake him but failed. She then called Raymond Chow back, but he was also unable to wake Bruce. A doctor was summoned, but after 10 minutes of resuscitation attempts, an ambulance was called to Queen Elizabeth Hospital. Unfortunately, all was in vain, as Bruce Lee was pronounced dead on arrival, aged just 32. Linda's account of the events leading up to Bruce's death shocked the world, adding to the grief of those who loved him. Many believed that if Bruce had received proper long-term medical care, instead of just temporary measures, he might have survived. Some have speculated that supernatural elements such as voodoo may have been involved in his death, which many believe is possible in Chinese culture. Speculation surrounding Bruce Lee's death continued as he was buried at Lakeview Cemetery in Seattle. His funeral on July 25th was attended by many, including close students and friends, such as Taki Kimura, Steve McQueen, James Coburn, Dan Inosanto, Peter Chin, and his brother Robert, all of whom were witnesses to his great legacy. Bruce's legacy extends beyond the martial arts lessons he imparted. Time magazine named him one of the 100 most important people of the 20th century, and he is considered by most martial artists to be the most influential martial artist of all time. Bruce Lee not only started the Kung Fu craze in the 1970s, but also reshaped the way Western culture viewed martial arts. Bruce was more than just a martial artist. He became a 20th century pop culture icon, a bridge between East and West. He introduced Kung Fu to the West through popular television shows like The Green Hornet and Kung Fu, opening the door for future generations to learn about martial arts. His work laid the foundation for all Western martial arts films from the 1970s to the 1990s and inspired many new martial arts actors like Jean-Claude Van Damme, Steven Seagal, and Chuck Norris. Not only that, he is also an inspiration to many action filmmakers, including Hong Kong film directors such as Jackie Chan and John Woo, and Hollywood filmmakers such as Quentin Tarantino and Brett Ratner, who all consider Bruce Lee as one of the greatest influences on their careers. In the world of martial arts, Bruce Lee is considered one of the pioneers of modern combat sports, especially mixed martial arts, MMA. He and his students developed the Jeet Kune Do style, popularizing the concept of mixed martial arts in the West and asserting that the best fighter is not one who follows a specific style, such as boxing, karate, or judo, but one who is able to adapt to any style and situation. As a teacher and cultural icon, Bruce has had a profound influence on many martial arts students. Among them are boxing champion Sugar Ray Leonard, who said he perfected his punching by watching Bruce fight. Boxing champion Manny Pacquiao, who compared his fighting style to Bruce's. And UFC champion Conor McGregor, who believes Bruce would be a UFC champion if he were alive and fighting in the present era. Other famous martial artists such as Joe Louis, Benny Urquidez, Jungu Rhee, Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, John Jones, and Anderson Silva have also frequently cited Bruce Lee and his martial arts philosophy as inspiration for their careers, earning him the title of Father of MMA. In his acting career, Bruce Lee changed the way Asians were portrayed on American television. He demonstrated that Asians could play more diverse roles, not just weak men or servants. With his strength, toughness, and charm, he became a role model for many actors, including Jackie Chan, Donnie Yen, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Eddie Murphy, Eddie Griffin, Olivia Munn, and Diane Doan. In addition, Bruce Lee had a profound influence on the comic book industry. Stan Lee, the founder of Marvel Comics, considered Bruce a superhero and inspired famous characters such as Shang-Chi and Iron Fist. In India, he has also inspired many Hindi masala films, affirming the spread of his cultural heritage across various fields. He served as the impetus for several manga and anime series in Japan. Both Game of Death and Enter the Dragon, which he created, laid the groundwork for the development of other types of video games, including fighting games and beat-em-up action games. Bruce is credited with being the unofficial president of the Yamakasi Parkour organization, which was founded in France. Bruce's concept of martial arts served as the inspiration for the Yamakasi Parkour. As a representation of his enormous influence and legacy, his statue is prominently displayed in the heart of Hong Kong, where it is visible to all aspiring citizens. In the years that followed, Bruce Lee established himself as one of the most influential fighters that the world has ever witnessed. However, could you tell me where the well-known martial artist got his start? The first words of a legendary tale. However, Bryce might not have always been that prominent. It was, in point of fact, the complete opposite. That was the reason that a lot of his admirers could identify with him. It was through him that the American ideal was demonstrated to be real, and that it was possible to realize it. Bruce was already saddled with a low beginning on account of the fact that he was born to Chinese immigrant parents, Li Hoi Chuen, who was an opera singer, and Grace Ho. He was able to assert his right to citizenship in the United States because of the fact that he was born within the time that the rules governing just purely citizenship were adopted. But he didn't stick around for very long. He was just 4 months old when his family moved back to Hong Kong from the United States. That was the beginning of the difficulties they would face. During World War II, the Japanese conducted a surprise attack on Hong Kong, which enabled them to take control of the city for the subsequent 4 years. This invasion was ultimately successful. Following the conclusion of the event, Bruce entered the realm of film. It was not difficult for him to get possibilities because his father had already established himself as a Cantonese opera star. In the movie Golden Gate Girl, he made his debut as a newborn who was carried onto the stage. This was his first known part. Then, when he was 9 years old, he made his debut in the starring role of The Kid, a film that was based on a comic book character named Kid Chung. He acted alongside his father in the film. When Bruce was only 18 years old, he had already made appearances in 20 films. He was virtually a star in Hong Kong, but his fame did not last long since, in April of 1959, his parents decided to move him to the United States, owing to his poor behavior in Hong Kong. Because he had been a member of street gangs and had previously been engaged in a number of confrontations, his parents decided to send him to the United States to be with his elder sister, Agnes Lee, who resided in San Francisco with family friends. Although he remained with her for some time, he relocated to Seattle in the same year. There, he maintained his high school education while working as a live-in server for Ruby Chow at her restaurant. In the same year, Bruce began teaching martial arts, mostly in Hong Kong, his hometown, where he had received his training from Yip Man. In the process of instructing his students in Bruce Lee Kung Fu, Bruce absorbed those lessons and appropriated them as his own. In the beginning, he instructed his buddies in Seattle, such as Jesse Glover, who was a judo practitioner. After that, he was able to acquire a greater number of pupils and enlist Taki Kimura to serve as his assistant instructor. He eventually established a legitimate martial arts school in Seattle, which he dubbed the Lee Jun Fan Kung Fu Institute. He was a master of the technique. Not long after that, he graduated from Edison Technical School, where he earned his high school diploma. After that, in March of 1961, he went on to finish his academic education by enrolling at the University of Washington. While he was there, he majored in theatrical arts and also studied other disciplines such as philosophy, psychology, and other related topics. 3 years later, however, Lee made the decision to withdraw from his educational pursuits. In its place, he relocated to Oakland in order to reside with James Yim Lee. Later on, he opened a second one. Lee had already tied the knot and established his own school in Oakland by the year 1964. His method of instruction, known as Jeet Kune Do, or the way of the intercepting fist, brought him a great deal of international renown. In addition to this, it was reported that he had a profound love for teaching, and that he treated his pupils as if they were a family. It thus did not come as a surprise when he built a third school in the city of Los Angeles. At that point, Bruce was introduced to American martial artist Ed Parker by James Lee. Ed sent an invitation to the 1964 Long Beach International Karate Championships to him that followed. Bruce got the crowd's attention there with his now iconic two-finger push-ups. William Dozier, a television producer, was one of the audience members who thought his performance was intriguing enough to urge him to try out for a part in the pilot episode of Number One Son, a show about Charlie Chan's son Lee. The program, alas, never came to fruition. However, it rekindled Bruce's interest in acting by exposing him to the vast possibilities of the film industry. Surprisingly, he became somewhat famous after his debut part in the TV series The Green Hornet. As Kato, the Hornet's sidekick, he showcased his acrobatic abilities and fighting methods in the 1960-1967 series. The role paved the way for him to make cameo appearances on Ironside, Longstreet, and the hit Batman series, among others. He was also a martial arts disciple of Bruce's and had a role in the notorious 1969 film Marlowe. He was joined in the picture by classmates James Garner, Steve McQueen, and James Coburn. He was having a blast in the acting world. Still, he maintained his commitment to martial arts. Various forms of physical training and exercise became ingrained in his routine. However, he suddenly ended his acting career due to a serious back ailment. His second great love was writing, so he devoted his efforts to it instead. He had the inspiration for what would later become the Kung Fu TV series at that moment. Unfortunately, the preconception that an Asian actor wouldn't be able to captivate audiences as much as an American actor led to David Carradine stealing the show from him. Due to the kind of bigotry he encountered, Bruce departed from Los Angeles for Hong Kong during the summer of 1971. Even though they first remained behind, his family finally came along. Upon auditioning for the parts, he was swiftly chosen because of his already high esteem in Hong Kong. The Big Boss was the first of 2 films he agreed to star in. Instantly popular and breaking records at the Hong Kong box office, the film starred Bruce as a courageous factory worker who battles to halt a lethal illicit drug smuggling organization. His subsequent picture, Fist of Fury, shattered those records. Like the original, Enter the Dragon was a huge financial success, but critics were less than enthusiastic about the film when it came out. Nevertheless, Bruce's brilliance persisted despite that. His acting career took off, and he became an Asian cinema superstar by the year's end of 1972. After a successful acting career, he and Raymond Chow co-founded Concord Productions. He made his directorial debut with the picture Return of the Dragon, which was published under his firm. That solidified his position as an Asian celebrity and amplified his already considerable impact across the continent. But in the United States, he had not yet achieved that degree of success. Still, he was moving around as well. Enter the Dragon, his first big Hollywood picture in 1972. To further demonstrate his heroism and expose several villains, the film's premise centered on Bruce breaking into a horrific martial arts competition that was a cover for drug and people trafficking. Since it was the first ever collaboration between a Hollywood studio, Warner Brothers, and a Chinese film firm, Golden Harvest and Concord, the picture was expected to shatter several records. but it was plagued with issues. Problems with writing, difficulties communicating, and several physical altercations between Bruce and his co-stars were the first obstacles. The most concerning issue was the budget, which fell well short of the widely reported $850,000 estimates. The total budget for the entire film was $450,000, according to associate producer Andre Morgan. Bruce had to orchestrate some of the most complex and physically demanding battle scenes ever seen to keep expenses down. Not only that, but he had to employ antiquated weapons instead of cutting-edge ones. Andre pointed out that, with so much riding on the picture, Bruce worked harder than ever before. Andre claims that he underwent mental and physical tiredness, as well as dehydration as a result of his exertions. Despite the discomfort, he performed admirably. He ultimately got his just desserts because the film went on to become the box office smash of all time in the martial arts genre. Because it helped bring martial arts to a wider audience throughout the world, Enter the Dragon is often hailed as one of the greatest action films of all time. Various works of fiction, such as comic books, manga, anime, action movies, TV series, and video games, were also influenced by it. So far, the film has been a success. The United States Library of Congress added it to its collection of culturally significant films in 2004. Plus, the movie's earnings were out of this world. During its first release, Enter the Dragon allegedly made almost $100 million worldwide. Many consider it to be the most financially successful picture of all time. Bruce regrettably didn't get to witness the enchantment he wrought as he passed suddenly just 6 days before the film's premiere. Everyone was surprised by his sudden death, and ever since then, many have speculated and theorized about what may have caused him to die away. However, which one is the real killer? Initially, several medical professionals concluded that Bruce Lee's untimely death was due to epilepsy. Bruce had a seizure while filming in Hong Kong on May 10, 1973, and this is how they arrived at their conclusion. It was presumed by the physicians that his death was due to epilepsy, as brain trauma and microtrauma are typical ailments among martial artists. After Bruce's breakdown in Hong Kong on May 29 and 30, 1973, he received a neurologic test, which found no abnormalities in his brain. David Risebord, a doctor who examines brain images, has verified this. Nevertheless, phenytoin is a medication frequently administered to individuals with epilepsy, and it was given to Bruce after this scan. Although the forensic results disproved this theory, many nevertheless blamed it for his sudden demise. There was no indication of persistent epilepsy in Bruce's findings. All that was mentioned were pulmonary edema and cerebral edema. After that theory was disproven, another one regarding Bruce's edema's origins began to circulate. According to Matthew Pauly's 2018 biography, Bruce Lee, a life actor, died of heat stroke. The excision of Bruce's axillary sweat glands a month before his fall on May 10th supposedly enhanced his risk of heat stroke, according to Matthew Pauly's hypothesis. Even the incident on May 10th, he said, was due to heat stroke. According to the criteria given by the Japanese Association of Acute Medicine, heat stroke happens when people are subjected to extremely hot temperatures. In most cases, it can also be caused by overexertion or a lack of control over core temperature. Patients who are at a higher risk due to characteristics including advanced age, obesity, cardiovascular disease, or dementia may also experience this. Possible heat-related complications include cerebral edema, blood-brain barrier disruption, and systemic inflammatory response syndrome, SIRS, due to hypothermia. Additionally, it is not uncommon for heat strokes to cause abrupt death. This led Matthew to conclude that Bruce died of heat stroke, as he had suspected. It was rather hot in Hong Kong on the day of his fall and death, he said, lending credence to the claim. He was executing extremely strenuous martial arts choreographies on site, which increased the risk of heat stroke. Nevertheless, his theory was also disproven when it was discovered that Bruce perspired heavily during his fall on May 10th, even though he had removed his axillary sweat glands. In addition, the 2 days measured temperatures, 25 and 32 degrees Celsius respectively, were not very hot for Hong Kong. It would be highly unlikely that he would suffer from heat stroke, given that he was born and reared in that climate. The absence of severe weather events and further facts disproved Matthew's argument for Bruce's demise. Theorizing, however, persisted. In a recently published scientific report, it was hypothesized that his death was brought on by the inability of his kidneys to eliminate extra water. It was reported by the authors of the study that Bruce held several risk factors for hyponatremia. The study was carried out by a group of renal experts in Spain, and it was published in an edition of the Clinical Renal Journal in the year 2018. This indicated that Bruce had an abnormally low salt content in his blood, and they cited factors such as Bruce's usage of marijuana and his consistent consumption of fluids as reasons for this condition. The physicians argued that the listed variables may have caused his kidneys to operate improperly, which was made worse by the fact that he used prescription drugs, drank alcohol, and sustained several injuries to the organ. According to the findings of the study, Bruce was unable to excrete sufficient amounts of water to maintain homeostasis, which might result in cerebral edema and sudden death within a matter of hours. The study also noted that this cause was highly common and frequently ignored, which is why it is said to have been responsible for the deaths of a great number of young people, including Bruce. Their notion, on the other hand, was not correct. An even more revealing truth was revealed when it was revealed that the true reason for Bruce's demise, which was described as sudden, was revealed. There were claims that Bruce had used some marijuana on the day of his demise when he was with producer Raymond Chow. This information comes from the reports that have been made. The fact that he actively played out several sequences for a future movie while under the influence of alcohol or drugs caused his brain to experience even more pressure. After their meeting, he and Raymond drove off to the residence of Betty Ting Pei, who was supposedly his purported mistress. As if that were not enough, he and Raymond drove off to Betty Ting Pei's house. During the time that he was staying at her house, he started experiencing terrible headaches and dizziness. This occurred within a short period. During that time, Betty provided him with an Equities tablet, which is a mix of aspirin and Equities, which he had previously used. Around 7:30 p.m., Bruce retired to his bedroom to relax once he had finished swallowing the tablet. There was no success in Betty's attempts to rouse him from his sleep at 9:30 p.m. A doctor was summoned, and he attempted to revive Bruce by conducting cardiopulmonary resuscitation, but he was unsuccessful. A medical examiner at the closest hospital determined that he had passed away after he was brought there. The devastating revelation of the events that had transpired before he died put everyone in a state of shock, with some individuals thinking that the two individuals who had been with him at the time of his passing were responsible for his death. An autopsy, on the other hand, confirmed very quickly that there was no evidence of any kind of foul play, since there were no symptoms of any exterior injuries detected. Since there was no evidence of a tongue bite, epilepsy was also ruled out as a possible cause. On the other hand, substantial cerebral edema was found, which led to a brain weight of 1,975 grams. This weight was much greater than the average weight of a brain, which is 1,400 grams. Additionally, there were traces of marijuana discovered in the stomach. The official cause of death for Bruce Lee was determined to be cerebral edema brought on by hypersensitivity to Equities. This conclusion was reached after the death of Bruce Lee. As a result of the fact that Bruce had previously taken the medication and had taken it once again on the day of his demise, it was determined that hypersensitivity to Equities was the cause of his passing. In spite of the fact that he has passed away, Bruce Lee's legacy will continue to endure via his family, his work, and his larger-than-life legacy, his wife, his family, and the things he left behind. On the other hand, Linda Cadwell Lee was not appreciative of this information. In point of fact, she was rather dismayed to figure out that even after a significant amount of time had passed, the death of her spouse was still a topic of conversation. In her book titled The Life and Tragic Death of Bruce Lee, she expressed her regret that after the passage of so many years, people continue to be curious about how Bruce Lee departed away, rather than remembering the manner in which he lived. On the other side, she had been committed to ensuring that Bruce's memory would be preserved, and due to the fact that he had passed away, she had authored 2 volumes that were devoted to him. The first one, which was published in 1975 and was named Bruce Lee, The Man Only I Knew, was published 2 years after his death. The second one, which was released in 1989 and was titled The Bruce Lee Story, was then published. Numerous people have been brought to tears by her unwavering commitment to preserving his memory, not just in the hearts of their 2 children, Brandon and Shannon, but also in the hearts of people all around the world. During the time that he was still alive, she took part in the dedication and remained by his side during all of the stages of his life. When Linda disclosed to her followers that she continued to be at Bruce's side, even though she did not have the backing of her mother, she acquired even more admirable qualities. She disclosed that her mother had never been a fan of Asian males, and as a result, she made the decision to accept Bruce as Linda's closest friend. Nevertheless, Linda desired something more than that. She was aware that she wanted to be Bruce's wife after she witnessed him delivering a lecture on Chinese philosophy at her college in 1961. However, her hopes were dashed when she discovered that he was seeing someone else, who happened to be her closest friend. However, destiny ultimately caught up with her when she became his pupil, and the two of them eventually tied the knot. From that point on, she has played a significant part in Bruce's life, from the time he became famous to the moment he passed away unexpectedly. In the days that followed Bruce Lee's passing, she committed herself to ensuring that the legacy and lessons of her late husband were preserved. The Bruce Lee Foundation was established by her, and she also published his works. Their 3 pillars of youth mental well-being, one family, and legacy are what drive individuals all around the globe to become the greatest version of themselves. The foundation is a non-profit organization that works to motivate people to become the best versions of themselves. People are also encouraged by the foundation to aim for honest self-expression that is in harmony with one another and is in tune with their minds, body, and soul. Up until 15 years later, when she was ready to be married once more, Linda devoted her time to effectively controlling it. In 1988, she entered into a marriage with Tom Bleecker, marking the moment when she made the decision to give marriage another opportunity. It was only until 1990 that the union was able to survive. It was the next year, in 1991, that she tied the knot with the stockbroker Bruce Cadwell, to whom she has been married ever since. The pair relocated to their rancho in Mirage, California, where she continued to devote herself to promoting the Jeet Kune Do martial arts method that was developed by Bruce Lee. Her commitment to educating their children about Bruce's way of life was another one of her many responsibilities. In an interview with ESPN, his daughter Shannon stated that even though she was unable to remember him since he had died away when she was only 4 years old, her mother's lessons helped her to remember his love, energy, and presence. In addition to that, she mentioned that seeing his films helped her feel even more connected to his thoughts and the way he lived his life. She added that she had been able to access those more profound and energetic memories of her father through the practice of martial arts, which had resulted in the bestowal of several talents upon her. Among the gifts that were given to her were the gifts of self-assurance and the gift of a genuine connection to both her inner self and the outer. Because she is required to put her father's teachings and ideas into practice, she can get a deeper comprehension of them when she engages in sparring and fighting. As far as she was concerned, she was not even a martial artist. Rather, she was a student of the art and the daughter of a skilled practitioner. Not only did her brother Brandon share the same views, but he also decided to pursue a profession in acting, just like their father had done. Unfortunately, he also had an early and sudden end, as he was struck on March 31, 1992, while filming The Crow in an unanticipated accident with a prop weapon. His death came as a result of the circumstances surrounding the event. Because of this, Linda decided to step away from the spotlight for a while. She returned to the United States in 2001, and upon her return, she transferred the responsibility of managing the foundation to her daughter Shannon and her son-in-law Ian Kiesler. In their current role, the two individuals are responsible for managing the Bruce Lee Foundation, which is committed to disseminating the deep martial arts teachings and philosophical writings of Bruce Lee. Since 2002, the foundation has been responsible for the creation of numerous online and physical exhibits that aim to educate people about Bruce Lee. Additionally, the foundation has offered financial assistance to students so that they can attend college, supported educational programs for students, and also managed the Camp Bruce Lee summer program, which allows children to practice martial arts and Bruce Lee's teachings. But what do you think? What do you think about the conclusions regarding his death? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. We would love to hear from you. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more interesting updates. Thank you and see you in the next videos.